Big tech companies and fast-growing startups have recently rebuilt their core system in Go. In this video, we'll go through 4 examples and we will look at what each was running before, what they gained by switching, and the reason they chose Go. First one is Microsoft, and the project is the TypeScript compiler. In March 2025, Microsoft announced they will port the whole project to use Go instead. And the person who leading the port is Anders Hallsberg. And that is also the same person who created the C# language. And in April 2026, about 1 month from when I recorded this video, Microsoft announced they're gonna release TypeScript 7 beta that uses Go for the compiler and the tools around it. Let's first start answer the question, why did Microsoft want to port their TypeScript compiler? And the answer is speed. It felt very slow. And I'm sure if you've been using TypeScript, you have sometimes felt that this is very slow and it could take a lot of time. One important thing with this is they made a port and not a full rewrite. So let's first just explain the difference between a port and a full rewrite. So a port is when you translate the existing code, keeping the same structure and behavior into a new language. However, a full rewrite, that means a new design. You start from a blank state and you throw out all the old code that you had before. I think it's very interesting why Microsoft chose Go, especially when the person who was leading the project was the one who created C#. And many people also wondered why didn't they use Rust instead? But when analyzing the decision Microsoft did, it actually makes a lot of sense. Let's answer the question, why did Microsoft not choose C#, that is their own language? And that is because the old compiler is written in a functional way and not an object-oriented style. And because C# is an object-oriented language, it would have been very difficult for a port. That would have meant they would have to rewrite everything from scratch. Microsoft also wanted something that compiles into native code. And while there is some ways to do that with C#, it doesn't support all the platforms and there is some quirks around it. And the next question is, why didn't Microsoft choose Rust? That's because the old compiler assumed that the language would have garbage collection. However, Rust doesn't have garbage collection and you have to manage the memory yourself. So choosing Rust, that would mean they would also have to rewrite everything from scratch and rethinking how memory would work across the whole codebase. And that kind of defeats the whole point of a port. So how come they chose Go? Some of the reasons are Go compiles into native code. Go is also very fast. It might not be as fast as Rust, but it's much faster than TypeScript. The performance gain they would get would still be very huge. And another reason is because the Go code is a bit similar to TypeScript code. So a developer who has been working in the old code base would still be familiar with the new port in Go. And some of their own words that comes from the Microsoft teams. Idiomatic Go strongly resembles the existing coding patterns of the TypeScript code base. And the number they got from this port is the builds were about 10 times faster. Editor load time reduced from 9.5 seconds to 1.2 seconds. So to summarize it, Microsoft decided to pick Go because it was the right tool for their goal. And it was also the shortest path they could take to doing a port. All the other choices, they would have to do a full rewrite and that would have taken much longer time. And those choices would have been much more riskful than using Go. The next company is Reddit. So Reddit has been using a Python monolith for many years. They decided to rebuild it with Go services. And they did it on the 4 central data models that Reddit have: comments, accounts, posts, and subreddits. Why did Reddit decide to leave Python? One reason was speed, but it was not the only reason. The Python monolith was unreliable, with a lot of logic buried inside it. Ownership was scattered across teams, and it had become too hard to maintain anymore. So why did they decide to choose Go? Now, Go is much better than Python at handle concurrent traffic. And to handle the same amount of traffic in Go compared to Python, you can do it with fewer servers and less coordination between them. Another reason was that Reddit was already using Go for some of the other services, so it felt very natural to move some of their core services to also use Go. And the numbers they got from moving to Go was that P99 latency on critical writes dropped by half. In case you don't know what P99 is, that's a way to measure the performance of an app. So it's basically saying 99% of all the requests are at least this fast. Now the interesting part is before they switched to Go, something basic as posting a comment could take up to 15 seconds. And then you might asking, how can it take 15 seconds to post a comment? And my guess would be that under the hood, when you post a comment to Reddit, it's doing a lot of things that the user won't actually see. And I think the testing strategy that Reddit used is very interesting. So instead of just shutting down the Python monolith and start the Go services, they run them at the same time. They gave the same input to both, and they had separate databases, and the database Go was using was a test database. So then they could compare the output and identify any bugs before it reached the users. And then when they were happy with the result, they could switch over 100% to use Go for their core services. The third company is Lovable. And in case you haven't heard about Lovable before, it's an AI company that lets users that don't have such a deep technical skills be able to build apps using their platform and with the help of AI. And Lovable was also using Python before. They rewrote about 42,000 lines of Python code over to Go. And here's a quote from one of the engineers. Python is great, but not for what we do. Our loads are highly concurrent and parallel. And he even talked about the example inside Lovable. So one single chat request can fire up to more than 50 HTTP calls at once to model providers, internal services, and storage, and so on. While Python are great for many things, this is one of the things that Go is doing much better. And some of the numbers they managed to achieve with this is they reduced server instances from 200 to 10. They managed to cut down deploys from 15 minutes to 3 minutes. And the request on average were about 12% faster. And this also led to the team could be more productive, because instead of trying to fight all the performance problems, they could now focus on building new features instead. And the last company for this video is Uber. And the fascinating thing about Uber, they probably run one of the largest Go code bases out there. Uber has been using different languages like Python and Node.js. And the reason they switched is similar to the other cases. They wanted a higher concurrency per machine, so the same amount of traffic could run on fewer servers. And this decision was not just only something that come from the technical team, it come from higher above. They decided that Python is no longer gonna be a supported language in the company for backend services. The strongest selling points they saw from Go was the concurrency model, the speed it gave them, but also the simplicity. I think a lot of companies, they enjoy using languages like Python or, for example, TypeScript, because those languages feel very simple to use. And switching to something like Go, they can keep that simplicity but still get much better performance. And here are some of the gains from Uber. The same amount of work on 97% less compute, meaning the servers and CPU they run on. They managed to cut down the firefighting support issues, and it dropped from about 60% to 20%. And here is my take on it. After analyzing all these companies, why they are using Go, it's only make me more confident in the language. And I think more companies will switch over, especially companies coming from TypeScript, Python, Java. That's because a lot of companies are building backend services. And Go is extremely good at it. But at the same time, they want to have a language that feels simple, with not a lot of overhead. Do you want to become a senior Go engineer? Skip the tutorials, solve real coding challenge, and build the skills companies actually pay for. Run your code and see exactly where went wrong or right. It takes you from the fundamentals all the way into production backend work. Visit levelupgo.dev.